Buck with Buck's Bookkeeping, where I keep books on personal finance, credit card rewards, and personal goals. The purpose of today's video is to kind of just share with you a little bit of my background with getting into credit card rewards, and then also kind of my system that I use to pay for something with a credit card, use our cash or savings accounts to pay that off, and just the system that has worked for kind of organizing all of it. So first I'll just start off by kind of giving you a background a little bit. My husband and I got married young, 23, and honestly one of our very first bills of the house that we were renting was a propane bill, and we live in northern Minnesota, so you need propane to heat at that particular time in that house. And we were hit with an $800 bill and no cash to do that. We were barely making anything. So that was our first experience of using a credit card as an emergency, and it snowballed over the next 5 to 6 years and constantly using a credit card. So much that I think it ended up being about tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt. We also had other debt and stuff like that we have since paid off. But as far as credit cards, in 2013, we ended up finding Dave Ramsey and his Financial Peace University, and his view on credit cards, we ended up adopting, and basically what it ended up being is a fear of credit cards. And that was okay for us at that point in time. That was what we needed in order for us to get serious and get out of debt. And I'm grateful for that. And it kind of snowballed after we got out of debt. We tried to stay very far away from credit cards. Well, I can't remember the exact year, but I think it was right around 2018. A friend of mine got married, and it was a destination wedding. And at the time we were pretty tight, but I still wanted to go and support, my friend on her wedding, at her wedding. And I ended up figuring out that one of my credit cards that I used so many years ago ended up having miles on it. And so I used those miles to pay for my ticket, fully covered. And then I also found another credit card that was able to kind of give me some points that I could make purchases on that trip, and then reimburse myself so that purchase on that credit card was covered. And that was my first realization of, oh my gosh, these cards can have these different perks if I make sure that I pay them off all the time. So in 2019, my husband and I went on our first kid-free trip, and we stockpiled a bunch of money and saved for this trip. And we decided that we were gonna open up a credit card together. So one in his name and mine, this combined credit card. And we decided, we're gonna use this one card just to be safe, so we didn't have to have cash and things like that on that trip. We're just gonna use that one card to see if we can meet the minimum spend and get the bonus, which was at the time 100,000 points on this card. And so we used that card for that entire trip, ended up qualifying for the bonus, got home, took all that cash and that savings, and then paid off that card. And I realized that card right there, with the two of us using it, was enough to pay for at least 3, possibly 4 plane tickets for our family to go on a family trip. So in 2019, I had in my mind that I wanted to go to Disney with our family in 2022. So I decided, okay, I'm just gonna keep using this same card to accumulate points and pay it off, accumulate points and pay it off, accumulate points and pay it off. In 2021, I ended up finding a couple people on Instagram that talked about fully funding vacations and trips completely on credit card rewards. And it shifted my mind in thinking of using one card to possibly using some of the bonuses or the sign up bonuses for more perks. So I started kind of investigating, and needless to say, we ended up opening, I don't even know how much it is. I should go back and count, and I'll make another video kind of detailing how we planned this trip and how we had almost $4,000 worth of expenses covered from credit card rewards points. I'll make another video with that. But basically, in a nutshell, we had at one point in time, we were using anywhere from like 3 to 5 sometimes cards per month at a time, just to kind of make sure that we were getting some of the perks. And that became kind of confusing and kind of like a shell game. And so I developed kind of this system that I will show you here in a bit that kind of streamlined it and helped me kind of continue to monitor what we're spending. Woo! For word recall, continue to monitor what we were spending, and then also make it streamlined for paying those cards off and making sure that we had the cash in, or either the cash or the money in the savings in order to pay those credit cards off. So here is the video of how the system that I have to help kind of streamline using multiple cards and paying those off. Okay, so I first of all have one separate checking account that I only use for the purpose of using credit cards. And I'll kind of explain a little bit more of how I'd use that. So I also have variable spending, and I have that in cash. And the reason is I still need concrete cash to feel the transactions a little bit more. So I do have, and we use about $2,000-ish or so per month for that variable spending. And you'll see that within my budgets. So there's our variable spending. And then I also have a sinking fund. Oops. Well, that's awful. Let's try that again, huh? Fund savings account. Okay. So let's just say I've got 4 credit cards that I'm kind of using. And that's because maybe like something's automatically, like I've got one of them that's tied to a couple bills. The other one I primarily use for like grocery shopping or Amazon shopping, that kind of thing. So if I have these 4 cards that I'm using on all of my expenses, except bills, I will use either my variable spending, which for me is food, eating out, miscellaneous, gas, fun, and liquor. I know. That's just what our life is like. But those are the categories that I use for variable spending. Anything outside of that in my sinking funds, which you'll see from my videos that I have a lot of sinking funds. If I use any of those, let's say for instance, my kid has a photos, for sports or whatever, and I pay for those photos, I have a kid sinking fund that I would use, but I would put it on a credit card first. So I would put that, I would put that expense on a credit card and then use the sinking fund to pay it off. And this is what that looks like. So put money on that credit card for this one. I have sinking fund savings account. I would transfer that money into that checking account and then pay that credit card off. Okay, I'll give you another example. Let's say I go to Walmart and get groceries for the week. I use this credit card. That is a part of my variable spending. I will transfer whatever that dollar amount is to this checking account, use that money in the checking account to pay off the credit card. So that's kind of how that looks. As all these expenses, I use a credit card for all those expenses, and I will either use the cash from this, put it into that checking account, or transfer from a savings account, putting it into that checking account, use this one checking account to pay off all the cards every single month. Hopefully that helps with kind of breaking down how my organizational system for using multiple cards and how I still interact with cash and I still have a savings account. So hopefully that helps.